Okay, well, I'm here with Chris Robertshaw. I happened to come up the other day and we had a sort of, I think we were here for an hour chatting about politics. I said, how's the politics? And I was sat here for an hour.
Have you added that to my bill?
So I sort of asked if I could come back up and we could go through very briefly some of the things that we spoke about the other day, because you had some interesting ideas, and I thought some people might be interested in knowing what you were thinking about the future of the political process and about the political direction of the Isle of Man over the next few years. And then you came back to me when we were sort of emailing, and you said, well, because obviously I have ideas and they're quite sort of radical and sort of a bit risky, I suppose some people say. And you said, well, you sort of came back to me with this, what's this, think about it in small steps. So I'm quite interested to know what your idea on small steps might be, because obviously you've got a direction and what you think. I'm very much interested in how things actually, rather than, everybody's got a good idea. I'm always interested in how, give me the actual process.
Well, if I was trying to summarise our conversation and take it on to the next step, I think you came very much from the stand, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, from the standpoint of personalised democracy, in other words, giving the individual a voice, which you feel they haven't got now. I think I came back to you and said, well, there's the other side of that. It's how government is going to fit into that process. And there was a headline that I hope I helped to generate before Christmas, and it was, is government there for us, or is it there for itself? And I think there's something of a feeling that it's there for itself. I don't think it thinks that.
A matter of perception.
Yeah, I think in many ways government is trying to do its best, but it's burdened, it's shackled by old-fashioned, clunky systems, and the essence of what I believe should happen is that we should be pursuing the things that we've said we're going to do, but with a lot more energy. So we've said that we should be a single legal entity, and people go, oh, what's that? Well, and the other thing is digital inclusion, and I think dealing with those two things will actually help change the world and will open the door to the sort of thing that you feel passionately about. Now, at the moment, there is no such thing as the Isle of Man government. There's 8 departments of government, which means there are 8 legal heads and 8 chief executives and a variety of different dynamics happening within that process.
Conflict as well between them.
Essentially, yeah. And also, because there are 8 different organisations, there are 8 different organisations looking at you as an individual from a different perspective. So, to put it in a sort of silly way, the Department of Ear knows all about the Department of Ear, and the Department of the Left Leg knows about the Department of the Left Leg, but nobody knows about you, James, holistically. Now, if you had a single entity, a single government, you would have the capacity to do that. You wouldn't have all these individual bits of data about you littered all over the place. There should essentially be one database, and that database should be ultimately controlled by you. You should actually own it.
Yeah, so to use a horrific management phrase, joined up thinking. But it's the bit that you just mentioned about me owning it. That's what I found quite interesting when we talked about it last time.
Well, yes, because data protection seems to be something which stops us doing things at the moment, rather than...
There's a lot of controversy about that right now, isn't there? About
there is. And therefore the way to deal with it is not to say the government owns data about me, is to say that actually I own that data about me. How many times in your...
I set up my own profile, just like you do on social media. I have my own profile, this is me. I'll tell you who I am, rather than you to...
Precisely. And you should initiate actions which government need to take on your behalf. You authorise them. You don't apply for them or request them. You instigate them through actions through your, as it were, your data profile. But whilst you have a situation where there are so many different organisations with their own heads, you essentially have inefficiency and an inability to see you. But you also have a lot of bureaucratic process going on, which we can't afford. And what we have to do somehow is to take that cost and redirect those monies to frontline services. Baroness Martha Lane Fox put it brilliantly last year in a talk she gave where she said, what we need to do is take the cold hand of bureaucracy and the cost related to it and place it into the warm hands of teachers and nurses. So we need to redirect funds, but we can only do that if we can deconstruct this big government process that we've got. And you know, when you stop and think about it, there's only 84,000 of us. We should be capable of doing it.
You would hope so. That is doable.
Yeah, and we should be able to do it more quickly and more effectively and more efficiently than anywhere else in the world. You know, it sounds a bit cliche, but we can actually be a shining example if we really wanted to.
Yeah, I think you've sort of summed up quite well the idea that you sort of put to me the other day. So the next thing, Ren, people can come back and ask questions about that if they want to. The next thing is the small step. Assuming that you are going to stand again.
I've said I am.
Oh right, well there you go. Yeah. You are going to stand again. What is the practical? What is the nuts and bolts way that, you know, assuming that people can sort of identify there's a potential for a good idea there. What are we looking at? How is that actually? Because we all know how the political system on the Isle of Man works and how difficult it is. I mean, that's what we were chatting about again yesterday to Phil. For somebody with a good idea to get that idea through. I mean, you know, there's this perception that it's incredibly difficult. Like, you know, as Alan Bella said, like herding cats. You know, you've got this group of people who all think that they've got the best idea.
Yeah, I mean,
so what's the practical step?
The practical step is to do the thing that we've said we're going to do and haven't yet done, which is enable the single legal entity to actually happen. To have one government instead of 8. That's step one. Step two, and I've been saying this publicly anyway, it's making sure that we're allocating sufficient funds to really energise digital inclusion. Now, if you look at the last budget, and I said this in my budget speech, if you look at the way the budget's going, it's talking about making savings here, there and everywhere, but it's only applying an additional £1 million a year to digital inclusion. It's not enough. If we're going to reinvent ourselves, and that's what we're talking about, if we're going to reinvent ourselves, we're going to have to commit a certain amount of capital to it to actually make it happen.
Yeah, but I want to go a step lower. I mean, you know, we could say that this is a good idea, we can say that that's the practical way, but when you walk into Tynwald, you know, after September, you know, how am I going from ushering cats to do it?
The traditional way of general elections, going through their formulas, if you like, is that individual candidates stand and they say, I will be a good constituency MHK and I will look after you.
Yeah, promise you the world.
Promise you the world. And because people find government terribly complicated in many, many cases, and rightly so, they tend to say, well, I'll vote for this person because government's terribly complicated, and actually, if I vote for this person, they'll look after me. That's almost remaining defaulted in the old ways. But
you can see why there's suspicion on that basis.
Yeah. And there are some candidates who actually will go exactly down that route and will say, don't worry about all these complications, just vote for me. What I'm saying is actually this time we've really got to sort government out, we've really got to reform government, and what I'm hoping is that people, when they talk to candidates on the doorstep, they'll start listening to people who want to reform government, not just simply say, don't worry, I'll look after you. Constituency work is very important, but this time we really must reform government. Now, why? It hit the fan in 2008. That kicked off the eventual loss of VAT. It changed the world here and everywhere else. And that administration under Tony Brown didn't really do very much at all. Actually, they did. They threw government up into the air, and it landed in a different form. It was the great change, but actually not a lot happened. It was a lot of action and activity, but no fundamental change. This administration has been concerned with trying to move things forward, making savings, but has shied away at the end of the day from that degree of reform that's really necessary to get that efficient, productive government that concerns itself about you as an individual.
What you've just outlined for us is is a way that it could happen, assuming that you do get re-elected. But I think, if I'm being sort of harsh on you, I think that the conversations that I'm going to have as a result of this will be, well, how can this be guaranteed? Because ultimately you will still just be one of, because obviously there's people talking about alliances and parties, and you know what I feel about how that can be empowered, how I could give you the power to make sure, if I think you've got a good idea, how that could happen, because I know that if I think that is the best idea in the world, you're still going to struggle as one man amongst.
Well, I'm not sure I am one man. I mean, that's the first.
No, yeah, but you know what I mean. It's still a case of
if it did turn out to
horse trading to get it to happen.
Yeah, if it did turn out to be that, then yes, it wouldn't be possible. I accept that. But I think the time's turned a little bit. I think that there's a sense amongst the electorate, if you like, all of us, that things have really, really got to change. And we need to put people in next time who are willing to do it. And if we just go down the same old route, then we will fail. We will go back into office if we're elected. We'll go through the same processes again, and we'll get absolutely nowhere. The difference is that we're progressively running out of reserves. And if we keep on going on the way we are, then we will run out of reserves, and we will face potential failure. There is no need for that to happen. This next House can make a huge difference. If this next House fails to act, then I would argue there are serious problems, really, really serious problems ahead.
Is there anything, just as a final point really, is there anything, because ultimately what we're talking about then is still a matter of trust. I mean, as you say, you're expecting a bit of a change in the people in the House.
Change of heart and change to some extent of a number of the members.
I mean, if you were coming knocking on my door, I'm quite a sort of an aggressive person when it comes to this. I think I would be saying, well, why should I trust you? That's and I want to, I've got an idea of why I should trust you. I want you to give me something that,
Well, I don't think you can capture it in a few words. I think this is a narrative, a discussion now that has to go on over the next number of months, and I think if you're talking about trust, that can only develop over a period of time, and exchange and development of discussions and a greater understanding of what it is we need to do. I don't think you can capture it in one word or one interview. Hopefully this is the beginning of something that will develop as the weeks go by.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you'll be available for more discussions. There are bound to be some questions that arise out of this.
Well, I hope so, and I look forward to trying to answer.